The story begins in a small, picturesque European kingdom, known for its rich history and timeless traditions. The capital city buzzes with life, filled with narrow cobblestone streets, colorful markets, and towering structures that whisper tales of centuries past. Among these landmarks stands the Grand Royal Palace, an architectural marvel surrounded by lush gardens and guarded day and night by the kingdom's elite royal guards. These guards, dressed in pristine uniforms and mounted on majestic horses, are as much a symbol of the nation's pride as the palace itself. Into this vibrant scene steps Alex, a young tourist brimming with excitement and a sense of adventure. Fresh off the train, Alex is armed with nothing but a backpack, a camera, and a thirst for exploration. He has heard stories about the beauty of this place, seen postcards of its landmarks, and scrolled through countless travel blogs, but nothing could have prepared him for the real thing. As he steps into the heart of the city, his eyes widen at every turn. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafts from nearby bakeries. Street performers entertain crowds with lively music, and vendors call out to passersby, offering handmade trinkets and local delicacies. But what catches Alex's attention most is the royal palace. Its golden spires glisten under the afternoon sun, and the sight of the mounted guards patrolling its gates feels like something straight out of a movie. To Alex, they seem almost unreal, like characters frozen in time, embodying the grace and dignity of a bygone era. But while others admire them from afar, snapping photos respectfully, Alex sees them differently. To him, they're not just symbols of authority. They're opportunities. Opportunities for the perfect picture, the ultimate souvenir, the kind of story he can tell his friends back home. Alex isn't unfamiliar with traveling. He's been to plenty of places before, but there's one thing that sets him apart from other tourists: his carelessness. Rules, guidelines, local customs, they've never really mattered to him. Sure, he's read the occasional warning sign or overheard snippets of advice from locals, but those things tend to go in one ear and out the other. After all, how serious could they be? It's not like anyone would actually punish him for stepping over a line, right? As Alex approaches the palace gates, he notices a series of signs posted along the perimeter. Do not approach the guards, they read in bold letters, accompanied by smaller text explaining the importance of maintaining distance for safety reasons. Some visitors linger near the signs, debating whether it's worth risking a closer look, but most stay well away, content to observe from afar. A nearby vendor selling souvenirs even pipes up, leaning toward Alex and saying, "You don't want to get too close, my friend." Those guards take their jobs very seriously. But Alex doesn't listen. Instead, he chuckles to himself, thinking the warnings sound exaggerated. How dangerous could a horse and rider really be? Besides, everyone else seems so cautious. It makes him feel bolder, more daring. If no one else is willing to push the boundaries, then maybe that's exactly what he should do. His confidence grows with each step forward, fueled by the thrill of breaking unwritten rules and capturing moments others wouldn't dare attempt. Little does Alex know, however, that his reckless curiosity is about to put him on a collision course, with consequences far greater than he ever imagined. As Alex continues his journey toward the royal palace gates, his mind is consumed with excitement. The warnings he had seen on the signs and heard from the vendor are already fading into the background. To him, they seem like minor obstacles, nothing more than suggestions meant to keep ordinary people in line. But Alex isn't ordinary, or so he tells himself. He's the kind of person who thrives on taking risks, even if it means bending the rules a little, or a lot. The closer he gets to the guards, the more his heart races, not out of fear, but out of anticipation. Each step feels like a small victory, a triumph over the invisible barriers that everyone else seems too afraid to cross. He glances around at the other tourists, many of whom are watching the guards from a safe distance, snapping photos with zoom lenses, or simply admiring the scene quietly. They're missing out, Alex thinks smugly. This is what traveling is all about, getting up close, experiencing things firsthand. But not everyone shares his enthusiasm. A middle-aged woman standing nearby notices Alex inching closer to the guards and frowns. She steps forward hesitantly, her voice low but firm as she addresses him. "Excuse me," she says, tapping him gently on the shoulder. "You might want to be careful. Those guards, they don't take kindly to anyone getting too close." Alex turns to look at her, his expression skeptical. "What do you mean?" he asks, brushing off her concern with a casual shrug. "I'm just looking. It's not like I'm doing anything wrong." The woman shakes her head, clearly uneasy. "It's not just about looking," she explains. "These guards are trained professionals. Their horses are part of their duty, and they protect them fiercely. If you disturb the horse, or worse, try to touch it, you could end up in serious trouble." Her words hang in the air for a moment, but Alex quickly dismisses them. "Come on," he replies with a laugh. "How bad could it really be? They're not going to arrest me for taking a picture, are they?" The woman sighs, realizing she's fighting a losing battle. "Suit yourself," she mutters before walking away, shaking her head. Her warning, however well-intentioned, has fallen on deaf ears. Not long after, Alex overhears a conversation between two other tourists standing near him. One of them, a man clutching the guidebook, mentions how rare it is to see the royal guards up close. "They're incredible," the man says, his tone filled with admiration. "So disciplined, so professional. You won't find soldiers like this anywhere else." His companion nods in agreement. "Yeah, and they're not just for show either. They have real authority here. People respect them because they represent something bigger than themselves, the history, the tradition, the pride of this country." Alex listens intently, but instead of feeling inspired, he feels emboldened. The more he hears about the guards' prestige and power, the more determined he becomes to prove that he's untouchable. What's the harm in getting a little closer? He wonders. Surely, no one would actually punish him for being curious. After all, he's just a tourist, an outsider who doesn't know any better. Everyone makes mistakes, right? With each passing second, Alex convinces himself that he's invincible. The warnings from the vendor and the woman fade further into the recesses of his mind, replaced by a growing sense of confidence. He adjusts the strap of his camera, ready to capture the ultimate shot. Nothing will stop him now. Not the signs, not the whispers of caution, and certainly not the stern expressions of the guards watching silently from their posts. Unbeknownst to Alex, his actions are drawing attention, not just from the guards, but also from the crowd gathering around him. Some watch with amusement, while others look on with concern, wondering how far he'll push his luck. For now, though, Alex remains blissfully unaware of the storm brewing around him. His focus is singular, getting as close to the guards and their horses as possible, regardless of the cost. And as he takes another step forward, edging dangerously close to the line that separates curiosity from recklessness, he has no idea that he's about to learn a lesson he'll never forget. Alex's confidence reaches its peak as he finally closes the gap between himself and the royal guards. The towering figure of a guard mounted on his horse looms just a few feet away now, close enough for Alex to see the intricate details of the guard's uniform. The polished buttons glinting in the sunlight, the sharp lines of the ceremonial hat, and the quiet authority etched into every movement. But what truly captivates Alex is the horse. Majestic and powerful, it stands tall, its coat gleaming like silk under the golden rays of the afternoon sun. For a moment, Alex pauses, awestruck by the sheer beauty of the scene before him. He raises his camera, snapping photo after photo, each click bringing him closer to capturing the perfect shot. But then, something shifts inside him. A reckless thought takes hold. What if he could get even closer? What if he didn't just settle for pictures from afar, but stepped right up to the horse itself? Surely that would make the experience unforgettable. With this idea burning in his mind, Alex moves forward again, ignoring the growing tension in the air. The horse, sensing the stranger's approach, begins to shift uneasily. Its ears flick back, and its tail swishes side to side, a clear sign of discomfort. The guard atop the horse stiffens slightly, his posture becoming even more rigid than before. His eyes lock onto Alex, dark and unyielding, silently urging him to stop. But Alex doesn't notice, or perhaps he chooses not to. All he sees is the opportunity unfolding in front of him. Before anyone can react, Alex makes a bold move. He stretches out his hand, reaching toward the horse's mane with an almost childlike curiosity. Just one touch, he mutters under his breath, convinced that no harm will come from it. It'll be fine. The instant his fingers graze the horse's neck, everything changes. The once calm animal jerks its head up, startled by the unexpected contact. Its hooves shuffle nervously against the ground, and a low whinny escapes its throat. The guard reacts immediately, pulling gently on the reins to steady the horse while simultaneously scanning the situation with razor-sharp focus. His jaw tightens, and his gloved hands grip the saddle firmly, exuding control and precision. Alex freezes, suddenly realizing the gravity of what he's done. For the first time since arriving at the palace gates, doubt creeps into his mind. He quickly withdraws his hand, stammering an apology. "Sorry, I didn't mean anything by it," he blurts out, his voice tinged with panic. "I was just curious." But his words fall flat. The guard dismounts swiftly, his movements deliberate and commanding. Every step he takes toward Alex radiates authority, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Tourists nearby gasp audibly, some stepping back to avoid getting caught in the unfolding drama. Others whip out their phones, eager to document the encounter. The once bustling atmosphere around the palace gates turns eerily silent, save for the faint rustle of the wind and the nervous shuffle of the horse's hooves. As the guard approaches, Alex instinctively raises both hands in a gesture of surrender, his earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of the situation. "Look, I'm sorry," he repeats, his voice trembling now. "I didn't know it was such a big deal." The guard says nothing at first, his expression unreadable behind the polished helmet. Instead, he studies Alex carefully, as though sizing him up. When he finally speaks, his tone is calm but firm, carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. "You were warned to keep your distance," he states simply, his words cutting through the silence like a blade. Interfering with a royal guard's horse is not only disrespectful, it is dangerous. Alex opens his mouth to argue, to explain that he hadn't meant any harm, but the words die on his lips. There's something about the guard's presence, his unwavering composure, that silences all excuses. In that moment, Alex realizes he has crossed a line he never fully understood until now. And as the guard motions for backup, signaling to his fellow officers nearby, Alex feels the full weight of his mistake pressing down on him. The crowd watches intently as 2 additional guards arrive on the scene, their arrival amplifying the tension. Alex knows there's no turning back. Whatever happens next will be entirely out of his control. The scene at the palace gates is now tense and charged with an unmistakable air of authority. Alex stands frozen, his earlier bravado completely shattered as the 3 royal guards form a silent yet imposing wall around him. The crowd of onlookers has grown larger, their murmurs rippling through the air like distant thunder. Some watch with wide-eyed concern, others with quiet satisfaction, as if silently agreeing that Alex had it coming. But for Alex, the world seems to narrow down to just him and the guards standing before him. Figures of discipline and power who show no hint of leniency. The lead guard steps forward again, his movements deliberate and measured. His voice cuts through the murmurs of the crowd, calm but firm. "You were given clear instructions," he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Signs are posted, warnings were issued, and yet you chose to ignore them. Do you understand the seriousness of your actions?" Alex swallows hard, his throat dry. He nods quickly, though his mind races to process what's happening. Yes, yes, I get it. He stammers, trying to sound cooperative. I didn't mean any harm. I was just curious. It won't happen again. But the guard doesn't soften. Instead, he continues, his words steady and unyielding. Curiosity does not excuse recklessness. These horses are not ordinary animals. They are highly trained and integral to our duties. Your interference could have endangered not only yourself, but also the horse and those around you. As the guard speaks, Alex feels a knot tightening in his stomach. For the first time, he begins to grasp the weight of what he's done. This isn't just about touching a horse or snapping a photo. It's about violating a deeply ingrained tradition, one that represents centuries of pride and discipline. The guards aren't merely soldiers. They are symbols of the kingdom itself, and disrespecting them is akin to disrespecting the nation. Still, Alex can't help but feel a flicker of frustration bubbling beneath his fear. Surely, this isn't worth all the fuss, is it? He tries to reason with the guard, his voice rising slightly despite his best efforts to stay calm. Look, I said I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It's not like I meant to cause trouble. Isn't that enough? The guard's response is immediate and icy. Intentions do not erase consequences, he replies, his gaze piercing. You have shown disregard for the rules, disrupted the peace, and demonstrated a lack of respect for our traditions. That cannot go unaddressed. With those words, the lead guard signals to his companions, and within moments, Alex finds himself being escorted away from the gates. The crowd parts reluctantly, some shaking their heads in disapproval while others whisper among themselves. A few even pull out their phones to record the spectacle, capturing every humiliating step of Alex's forced departure. Each flash of a camera feels like a dagger to his pride, and he keeps his head down, avoiding eye contact with anyone. As they approach a nearby security station tucked discreetly within the palace grounds, Alex's anxiety spikes. What happens next? Will he be arrested, fined, banished from the country altogether? His imagination runs wild, conjuring worst-case scenarios that only deepen his panic. Inside the small, sparsely decorated office, officials wait to handle the situation. They listen intently as the guards recount the incident, their expressions grim and professional. One official finally turns to Alex, holding up a copy of the local laws regarding conduct near royal guards and their horses. Do you see this? He asks, pointing to a specific clause. It clearly states that interfering with a royal guard's duties, or their equipment, including their horses, is a punishable offense. By disregarding these rules, you have placed yourself in violation of our legal system. Alex listens, his face pale. He mumbles another apology, but the officials remain unmoved. After a brief discussion, they inform him of the penalties, a hefty fine and a permanent ban from entering the palace grounds or interacting with the royal guards in the future. The fine alone is steep enough to make Alex cringe, but the ban feels like an even heavier blow. A public declaration that he is no longer welcome in one of the most iconic landmarks of the city. As Alex signs the necessary paperwork, his hands trembling slightly, he realizes the full scope of his foolishness. This isn't just a slap on the wrist. It's a lesson delivered with precision and authority. And as he walks out of the security station, humiliated and defeated, he knows that the image of the stern-faced guard and the restless horse will haunt him for a long time to come. News of the incident spreads like wildfire, fueled by the very thing Alex had hoped to capture during his ill-fated encounter: attention. Within hours, snippets of the confrontation begin circulating online. Grainy videos recorded on smartphones, photos of Alex's panicked expression as he was escorted away, and screenshots of the warning signs he ignored. Social media platforms light up with hashtags like #PalaceGateMistake and #TouristTrouble, turning what should have been a private lesson into a very public spectacle. At first, the reactions are mixed. Some people side with Alex, sympathizing with his plight and calling the punishment excessive. It was just a horse. One commenter writes beneath a viral video, "Sure, he crossed a line, but did they really need to fine him so much?" Others argue that the guards were justified in their actions, praising them for upholding tradition and protecting their duties. "These guards represent centuries of history," another user posts. "If you can't respect that, maybe you shouldn't be there." Local news outlets pick up the story, adding fuel to the fire. Headlines blare across newspapers and websites. "Tourist learns hard lesson at Royal Palace," and "When curiosity crosses the line." Reporters interview palace officials who reiterate the importance of respecting boundaries around the royal guards. One official explains, "This isn't about punishing someone for making a mistake. It's about preserving the integrity of our traditions. People need to understand that these rules exist for a reason." Meanwhile, back in his hotel room, Alex scrolls through his phone in disbelief. The weight of the situation crashes over him as he sees his face plastered across social media feeds and news articles. Comments range from mocking memes to scathing critiques of his behavior. A particularly biting post shows a photo of him reaching for the horse's mane with the caption, "Curiosity killed the tourist." Each notification feels like a fresh blow, chipping away at whatever remained of his confidence. To make matters worse, friends and family back home start messaging him, asking if the stories are true. At first, Alex tries to downplay the incident, insisting it was blown out of proportion. "It wasn't that big of a deal," he tells his sister over the phone. "I just got too close, and they freaked out. It's not like I hurt anyone." But even as he says the words, he knows they sound hollow. Deep down, he understands why the guards reacted the way they did. He just isn't ready to admit it yet. As the days pass, Alex begins to notice something surprising. Amidst all the criticism, some voices rise in defense of the guards. Videos of their daily routines go viral, showcasing their rigorous training and dedication to duty. Clips of the horses being groomed and cared for highlight the bond between the animals and their riders, emphasizing how integral they are to the guards' responsibilities. For the first time, Alex starts to see them not just as stern figures in uniforms, but as professionals deeply committed to their roles. This newfound perspective is unsettling. Alex had always thought of himself as someone who lived life to the fullest, unafraid to take risks and push boundaries. Now he finds himself questioning whether his approach has been misguided all along. Was he truly living boldly, or just acting recklessly? The distinction feels blurrier than ever. Complicating things further is the financial burden of the fine. Paying it means dipping into savings he'd set aside for future travels, forcing him to cancel plans he'd been looking forward to for months. As he sits alone in his hotel room, staring at the confirmation email for the payment, Alex feels a mix of shame and frustration. He knows he brought this upon himself, but the consequences feel heavier than he anticipated. By the time he packs his bags to leave the city, Alex is emotionally drained. Walking past the palace gates one last time, he glances at the mounted guards stationed there, their presence as imposing as ever. This time, though, he keeps his distance, feeling a strange mix of respect and regret. Though the incident is behind him, its impact lingers. A reminder that every action has repercussions, especially when it comes to crossing lines drawn by centuries of tradition. Back in his hometown, Alex's life takes on a surreal quality as the incident continues to follow him like a shadow. The viral videos and news articles haven't faded into obscurity. Instead, they've taken on a life of their own. Friends who once joked about his adventures now greet him with awkward smiles, unsure whether to laugh or lecture him. At family gatherings, relatives bring up the story repeatedly, often framing it as a cautionary tale for younger cousins. "Remember Alex," someone inevitably says at dinner. "Don't end up like him." The online backlash intensifies too. Comment sections under posts about the incident explode with debates about cultural sensitivity and personal responsibility. Some argue that Alex's actions reflect a broader issue among tourists, ignoring local customs in favor of Instagram-worthy moments. Others point out how easy it is to overlook rules when traveling in unfamiliar places. Meanwhile, memes featuring Alex's face circulate endlessly, turning what was already an embarrassing situation into something almost comical. But not all reactions are negative. A small but vocal group defends Alex, suggesting that everyone makes mistakes and that the punishment might have been overly harsh. One commenter writes, "He didn't mean any harm. He just got carried away. Haven't we all done something stupid while traveling?" These voices provide Alex with a sliver of comfort, reminding him that he's not entirely alone in this experience. Still, the overwhelming tide of criticism weighs heavily on him. What surprises Alex most, however, is the surge of admiration for the Royal Guards. Videos showcasing their training routines and interviews with former guards gain traction online, painting them as disciplined protectors of tradition rather than stern enforcers of rules. People marvel at the precision of their movements, the care they show toward their horses, and the pride they take in representing their country. In one particularly popular clip, a retired guard explains the bond between rider and horse, describing how years of partnership create a seamless connection essential to their duties. Watching these videos, Alex feels a pang of guilt. And something else: respect. For weeks after returning home, Alex avoids discussing the incident altogether. But avoiding it doesn't make it disappear. Every notification on his phone feels like a reminder of his mistake. Each time he opens social media, he braces himself for another wave of ridicule or judgment. Eventually, though, the constant scrutiny forces him to confront what happened, not just the act itself, but its deeper implications. One evening, sitting alone in his apartment, Alex decides to write down his thoughts. At first, it's just for himself, a way to process everything he's feeling. But as he writes, he realizes he has an opportunity to do more than reflect. He can apologize, not just to the guards or the officials involved, but to anyone who felt offended by his actions. And maybe, just maybe, he can turn this painful chapter into a lesson for others. Taking a deep breath, Alex drafts a heartfelt letter. In it, he acknowledges his carelessness and admits that he failed to respect the boundaries set by the palace. "I thought I was being adventurous," he writes, "but I see now that I was being selfish. I let my excitement cloud my judgment and crossed a line I should never have approached." He expresses gratitude for the lessons learned, thanking the guards and officials for holding him accountable. Finally, he urges fellow travelers to approach new cultures with humility and respect, emphasizing the importance of understanding and honoring traditions. When the letter is complete, Alex hesitates before posting it online. Sharing such a personal reflection feels terrifying, especially given the ridicule he's already endured. But he knows it's the right thing to do. With trembling fingers, he hits publish and waits. The response is immediate and unexpected. While some critics remain unforgiving, many readers commend Alex for owning up to his mistakes. Some share their own stories of cultural missteps, creating a sense of solidarity. Others thank him for sparking important conversations about responsible tourism. Slowly but surely, the narrative begins to shift. What started as a moment of recklessness transforms into a catalyst for growth, not just for Alex, but for those who read his words. As the days pass, Alex starts to feel a glimmer of hope. The incident will always be part of his story, but perhaps it doesn't have to define him. Instead, it could serve as a turning point, a reminder that even our biggest mistakes can lead to meaningful change. Months have passed since the incident at the Royal Palace, and Alex has changed in ways he never expected. The initial shock and embarrassment have faded, replaced by a quiet determination to ensure that such a mistake never happens again. He spends hours reading about cultural etiquette, researching traditions, and learning how to travel responsibly. Books on global customs pile up on his bedside table, and documentaries about different cultures become his go-to entertainment. For the first time in his life, Alex realizes that traveling isn't just about seeing new places, it's about understanding them. One day, as he scrolls through his phone, he stumbles upon an article titled, "How to Be a Respectful Traveler." It's filled with practical advice. Always ask permission before taking photos of people or sacred sites. Learn basic phrases in the local language. Dress modestly when visiting religious landmarks. And respect warning signs, no matter how trivial they may seem. Each tip feels like a direct response to his own missteps, and Alex makes a mental note to carry these lessons with him wherever he goes. Determined to put his newfound knowledge into practice, Alex begins planning another trip, this time to a remote village in Southeast Asia known for its vibrant festivals and rich heritage. Before booking his flight, however, he dives deep into research. He reads about the history of the region, watches videos showcasing daily life in the village, and even reaches out to locals online for advice. One woman, a teacher from the village, responds enthusiastically, offering insights into local customs and suggesting ways Alex can immerse himself respectfully. Her guidance becomes invaluable, helping him prepare not just logistically but emotionally. When Alex finally arrives in the village, he approaches everything differently. Gone is the carefree recklessness that once defined his travels. In its place is a thoughtful curiosity tempered by humility. During the village's annual harvest festival, he asks permission before snapping photos of dancers adorned in colorful traditional attire. When invited to join a communal meal, he thanks the host profusely and follows their lead, using his hands to eat instead of utensils as a sign of respect. Even small gestures, like removing his shoes before entering homes or greeting elders with a slight bow, demonstrate his effort to honor local traditions. The villagers notice. At first, they're cautious, unsure what to make of this foreigner who seems so eager to learn. But as days pass, their wariness melts away, replaced by warmth and acceptance. Children run up to Alex, giggling as he tries, and often fails, to pronounce words in their language. Elders share stories of their ancestors, delighted by his genuine interest. And when the festival culminates in a grand ceremony, Alex finds himself standing shoulder to shoulder with the villagers, clapping and cheering alongside them. In that moment, he feels something he hasn't felt in years, a true connection, not as a tourist, but as a participant. Back home, Alex reflects on how far he's come. The memory of the royal guard and his horse still lingers, but it no longer haunts him. Instead, it serves as a reminder of the importance of respecting boundaries, both visible and invisible. Alex knows now that every culture has its own set of rules, some written and others unspoken, and ignoring them doesn't just risk offending. It risks losing the chance to truly experience something special. As he flips through the photos from his latest trip, Alex smiles. There are no pictures of him posing arrogantly in front of landmarks or trying to steal moments he wasn't meant to capture. Instead, there are candid shots of smiling faces, shared meals, and vibrant celebrations. These images tell a different story, one of growth, gratitude, and mutual respect. For the first time, Alex feels proud not of where he's been, but of how he's traveled. And though he'll never forget the day he crossed the line with the Royal Guard's horse, he knows it was the beginning of a journey far greater than any destination. Alex's transformation is complete, though he knows it's not something that can ever be taken for granted. Traveling has become more than just a hobby. It's now a practice in mindfulness, an opportunity to grow and connect with the world around him. Each new destination brings its own challenges, but Alex approaches them with a level of care and consideration that would have been unimaginable before his encounter at the royal palace. He no longer sees himself as a mere observer. Instead, he strives to be a respectful guest, someone who leaves a positive impression rather than a trail of regret. One evening, while scrolling through social media, Alex notices a familiar sight, the Grand Palace where it all began. Someone has posted a photo of the mounted guards patrolling near the gates, their horses majestic against the golden glow of sunset. For a moment, Alex feels a pang of nostalgia, and perhaps a twinge of guilt, but it quickly gives way to gratitude. That day may have ended in humiliation, but it sparked a journey of self-discovery that continues to shape him. Inspired by the memory, Alex decides to revisit the kingdom, not to seek redemption or prove a point, but simply to appreciate it from a new perspective. This time, he prepares meticulously, brushing up on local customs and ensuring he understands every rule. As he steps off the train and into the bustling capital city, he feels a sense of calm he didn't possess during his first visit. The streets are as lively as ever, filled with laughter, music, and the aroma of street food wafting through the air. But this time, Alex moves through the crowd with purpose, his camera slung casually over his shoulder, ready to capture moments without crossing any lines. When he arrives at the palace gates, Alex keeps a respectful distance, admiring the scene from afar. The guards stand tall and proud atop their horses, exuding the same quiet authority that once intimidated him. He watches silently, taking in the beauty of their uniforms, the precision of their movements, and the bond between rider and horse. It's clear now why they command such respect. They embody centuries of tradition, discipline, and pride. A young child nearby tugs at her mother's sleeve, pointing excitedly toward the guards. "Why do they ride horses?" she asks innocently. Her mother smiles and kneels down to explain, her voice soft but firm. "They protect us," she says, "and we protect them by respecting their space." The words strike a chord deep within Alex, reminding him of how far he's come since the last time he stood here. Feeling the surge of appreciation, Alex takes out his camera and snaps a few photos. From a safe and appropriate distance, of course. Later, as he sits in a nearby cafe sipping coffee, he uploads one of the images to social media along with a caption. Sometimes, the hardest lessons lead to the most meaningful growth. Thank you to the royal guards who taught me the value of boundaries, respect, and humility. Your dedication inspires me every day. The post garners hundreds of likes and comments, many from people who remember the incident and are surprised to see how much Alex has changed. Some thank him for sharing his story, saying it's inspired them to travel more thoughtfully. Others commend the guards for their role in shaping his journey. Among the replies is a message from the retired guard, whose interview about the bond between rider and horse went viral months earlier. "Glad to see you've grown from the experience." The comment reads, "Keep spreading the message of respect." Tears well up in Alex's eyes as he reads the note. It's a simple acknowledgement, yet it means the world to him. In that moment, he realizes that the ripple effects of his actions extend far beyond himself. They've touched countless lives, sparking conversations about cultural sensitivity and personal accountability. As the sun sets over the city, casting long shadows across the cobblestone streets, Alex reflects on how dramatically his life has shifted. What started as a reckless act born out of arrogance has blossomed into a profound understanding of responsibility and connection. He knows he'll never forget the stern-faced guard who dismounted that fateful day, nor the restless horse whose mane he dared to touch. They weren't just figures enforcing rules. They were teachers, delivering a lesson Alex needed to learn. With a renewed sense of purpose, Alex packs his camera and heads back to his hotel, already dreaming of his next adventure. This time, though, he won't be chasing Instagram likes or adrenaline rushes. Instead, he'll focus on building bridges, fostering understanding, and honoring the traditions of the places he visits. Because now, more than anything, Alex understands that true exploration isn't about conquering boundaries. It's about respecting them. And in doing so, he's discovered a deeper, richer way to experience the world.